Okay, so I'm going over my lesson plan, sections 4 through 6 tonight, and I want to start off by apologizing if the volume fades off during this presentation. I've had difficulty with it, but hopefully it will go this time. So for the activities section of my lesson plan, I'll start off with an introduction, and the introduction will be me coming into the classroom, and I'll display some of the different communication behaviors that we will go over during the day's lesson. And this will be an attention getter for the students, and it will take them by surprise. This will not be normal behavior for me. So because of that, I will then explain what I was doing, what we will learn for the day, and why. So we will then go to the guided practice, which is when we will split into our high-low small groups for the role-playing scenarios. And the way these will start is I will hand out a scripted scenario for the first one as a practice to get everybody used to what we're doing and the different communication styles that we'll be studying. I will then walk around and guide them and help them, assisting each group because they may not be comfortable with this for the first time. So then for the next scenario, each member of the group will have a specific role to act out and a topic to discuss, but they will be required to come up with their own discussions when they exhibit the different types of communication. So the students will also be directed to make note of all the conflicts that arise that will be used in our later discussion, as well as they will use in their independent practice. So we will then come back together as a large group so that I can provide feedback on what I observed as I walked around during the small group. We will then go to the independent practice, which I will provide a grading rubric for so the students can see what the expectations are. And this will be when the students will individually state in writing a description of a conflict that arose during their group activity and what strategy they would use to resolve the conflict and why. We will then close out by restating the objectives, and I will ask for volunteers to tell the class an example of when an objective was met. And then for an exit slip, I will provide the students with sticky notes, and they will write down on a sticky note one thing they took away from the lesson, and then stick those notes on the door as they leave. So why have I chosen these activities? I chose these activities because I felt they were the best route for student learning for this particular lesson. For the modeling activity, this will serve again as an opener. It will be a good segue into the rest of the lesson. It'll get the students' attention and introduce them to the lesson. In order for the students to be able to recognize the different communication behaviors and conflicts created, I felt that it would be most beneficial for them to do this hands-on work with their small group activity, where they can exhibit the different types of communication styles. And then the independent practice is for students to explore ideas on their own. And then the group discussion during the closure will help to further clarify the objectives, and the exit tickets will help me to see how well the information was absorbed. So then moving on to the next section, which is materials. For the materials that are necessary for these activities, I will need note cards, notebook paper, sticky notepads, and pens. So there won't be many materials needed for this because the main meat of the lesson will be the small group activities. And since this is working on verbal communication, there won't be that many materials necessary, but there will be some. So to go over them, the note cards are for the scripted scenarios as well as the assigned roles and the topics of discussion. The notebook paper is for the independent practice portion, and the sticky notes are for the exit tickets. And of course, the pens are for student writing. So, closing out with the evaluation. How and when do I plan to evaluate student learning on the content? As the students take part in the different role play scenarios, I'll conduct the informal, formative assessments by observation, by walking around and observing, and then I'll record the results utilizing a checklist evaluation sheet. Then a summative evaluation will be conducted, where each student will develop and write the conflict resolution strategies that will be graded using the rubric. And then as an alternative for the visual spatial learners, they can choose to draw out the conflicts and resolutions, which is perfectly fine. So why have I chosen these? The small group role play scenarios were chosen for the formative assessment because I can observe the students as I walk around, as they participate, which will also be time efficient, and it will be easy to see how they are incorporating the elements of the objective. And the checklist will help in providing feedback to each student prior to the independent practice, and will serve as a record-keeping device. I've chosen the rubric as the summative evaluation on the strategies produced during independent learning, so that I can gauge the individual's specific knowledge. And this will also allow me to determine how I may need to adjust my instruction. So those are sections 4 through 6 of my lesson plan.